Hello and welcome to the Internal Awards and Recognition Writing for Success workshop. I'm Catherine Attard from the School of Education and I'm a past winner of both internal and external teaching awards. In this workshop I'll be talking about 3 things to assist you in developing your application for either a teaching citation or a Teaching Excellence Award. First, I'll talk about composing your narrative. Second, we'll explore the evidence you need to support your claims. And third, we'll look at the genre of award nominations to assist you in crafting a convincing and compelling application. When writing an award nomination, it's important that you craft your application into a narrative. The judges want to know about your context, your personal story, and how your contribution has had an impact on student learning at Western Sydney University. In assessing nominations against the selected criterion, the judging panel will consider the extent to which you show your contribution has influenced student learning, engagement, or the overall student experience, been sustained over a period of 1 to 3 years, and gained recognition from peers, the institution, and/or the broader community. It's important to keep these 3 points in mind as you gather your evidence and draft your application, particularly if your claim relates to success that is very recent. Perhaps you need to consider the timing of your nomination. Sometimes it's wise to wait to ensure the impact of your contribution is in fact sustained over a period of time rather than just a one-off success. So to begin with, let's talk about your contribution. It's important that your contribution you are claiming is not just about doing your job well. It has to be more. You need to show that you're going over and above the typical expectations. Perhaps you've addressed a specific issue such as low retention rates or high failure rates. Perhaps you've designed new learning resources or other innovative practices. Whatever your claim, you need to ensure that it is linked to teaching and learning. To help you focus on articulating your contribution, try this simple exercise. Pause the video and take a few minutes to write a news headline that concisely describes your contribution and its impact. How did you go? Were you able to identify a clear contribution and impact? If not, you need to consider what your contribution is and how you are going to make a case for your contribution. If you were easily able to articulate your contribution into a short, sharp headline, you're now ready to consider how you might describe the context. When writing an award application, you need to provide the judging panel with a clear picture of your teaching context. This could include the context of your discipline, your school, your course, or your unit. It could also include the context specific to your students. I'll give you an example from my teaching. I work in mathematics education and many of my students enter the Master of Teaching with a fear of mathematics, even though as future primary school teachers they need to know that they will need to teach it. Their attitudes and engagement need to improve in order for them to learn how to become effective teachers of mathematics, particularly in a climate where Australia's mathematics results continue to slide in international rankings. Therefore, my contribution is that I use engaging practices to improve attitudes and motivate and inspire my students, thus improving teaching and learning in Australian schools. Consider the current landscape for you and your students. How does your contribution align with your context? When you describe your context, it's important to use the language that is easy to understand. Remember that the members of any judging panel are made up from academics from a range of disciplines. Take a minute to read the text in this slide, which is an introductory paragraph from my own External Teaching Excellence Award. You will notice I have started with a broad context in this paragraph. Following paragraphs narrow the context down to the university and then to the students. If you are applying for an internal award, you don't necessarily need to describe the Western Sydney University context unless it has specific relevance to the contribution you are claiming. Press pause now and spend a few minutes considering how you would describe your context. Think about how your content links with the claims that you're making. The next thing you need to consider is the award criteria. If you're applying for a citation, you need to identify one criteria out of the list of 4. if you're applying for a Teaching Excellence Award, you need to address all 4 criteria. I'll provide more detailed information on the various ways you might address each of the 4 criteria. The first criteria is approaches to teaching and the support for learning that influence, motivate and inspire students to learn. This might include fostering student development by stimulating curiosity and independence in learning, participating in effective and empathetic guidance and advice for students, assisting students from equity and other demographic subgroups to participate and achieve success in their courses, encouraging student engagement through enthusiasm shown for learning and teaching, inspiring and motivating students through effective communication, presentation and interpersonal skills, enabling others to enhance their approaches to learning and teaching, developing and/or integrating assessment strategies to enhance student learning. The second criteria, development of curricula, resources or services that reflect a command of the field, could include developing and presenting coherent and imaginative resources for student learning, implementing research-led approaches to learning and teaching, demonstrating up-to-date knowledge of the field of study in the design of the curriculum and the creation of resources for learning, communicating clear objectives and expectations for student learning, providing support to those involved in the development of curricula and resources, or contributing professional expertise to enhance curriculum or resources. The third criteria is evaluation practices that bring about improvements in teaching and learning. Evaluation comprises of making judgments about the quality of programs and activities that are part of the academic, cultural and social experience of higher education. This might include showing advanced skills in evaluation and reflective practice, using a variety of evaluation strategies to bring about change, adapting evaluation methods to different contexts and diverse student needs and learning styles, contributing professional expertise to the field of evaluation in order to improve program design and delivery, or dissemination and embedding of good practice identified through evaluation. The final criteria is innovation, leadership or scholarship that has influenced and enhanced learning and teaching and/or the student experience. This could include participating in and contributing to professional activities related to learning and teaching, innovations in service and support for students, coordination, management and leadership of courses and student learning, conducting and publishing research related to teaching, demonstrating leadership through activities that have broad influence on the profession, providing innovative learning and teaching for different contexts, including technology-enhanced environments for large and small class sizes, and/or to meet the needs of a diverse student cohort, influencing the overall academic, social and cultural experience of higher education. It's important that you select the criteria that best matches your claim. This could make or break your application. Once you've selected your criteria, it's really important to consider the impact of your contribution and the evidence that you have to support your claim. This is one of the most important aspects of your application. For every claim you make, you must have evidence to show the impact. Whenever I'm writing an application, I make it a habit of questioning everything I write. What is the impact of my work and where is the evidence? So what kind of evidence should you use? Here are a few examples of the most common types of evidence you can use to support your claim. The most obvious being SFU and SFT data. Our new feedback portal provides us with the opportunity to dig much deeper into SFT data or SFU data than ever before. For example, you can search the data for specific types of students such as international students, if that relates to your contribution. Other student-derived evidence can be sourced from unsolicited student emails, student interviews or focus groups. Use data that strengthens your argument and use a combination of qualitative and quantitative data. Another way to gather evidence is to seek feedback from your colleagues. You could ask your colleagues to complete a simple questionnaire or survey relevant to the claims you are making in your application. Another source of evidence can come from past students. If you've heard stories of their success beyond your unit or course as a result of your work, use that as impact and evidence. You might have received feedback from employers or you might have publications relating to your contribution. Depending on your discipline, you may have received external recognition from your profession. If you use social media in relation to your teaching, then you may be able to use some of the analytics available to strengthen your case. You can also use evidence of institutional recognition. This could include prior awards that are related to your contribution, promotion that's based on your contribution, written acknowledgement from senior management, invitations to advise or mentor colleagues across the institution, or the adoption of your contribution as a benchmark for practice or performance. One of the biggest challenges involved in writing a good award application is weaving your evidence into your narrative. Here is an example of how I incorporated some direct quotes into my application. You need to consider the most appropriate quotes to strengthen your argument while integrating them into a narrative that flows. Using a different text colour to highlight quotes is a simple way to draw attention to the evidence. Another consideration is how you present quantitative data in a way that's easy to read and make sense of. The table in this slide provides a picture of the overall student feedback on teaching and student feedback on unit. Notice how there is a comparison between the WSU mean scores, the School of Education scores, and my scores. I've bolded my scores to ensure they stand out. The table here shows how I have been selective about choosing what aspect of the SFU feedback best supports my claim regarding assessment. Whatever evidence you have, remember that it must support your claims, must be derived from a variety of sources, be accurately quoted, cover as broad a time period as possible, show sustained excellence, effectiveness, creativity, imagination, or innovation, and be integrated into your application as part of the narrative. Take a moment now to consider the evidence that you'll use. Consider how each piece of evidence supports your claim. If you feel you don't have enough evidence to support your claim, think about waiting until next year to apply for your award. It's often better to wait until you have a more sustained impact and a strong body of evidence before submitting award applications. The final section of this presentation deals with style or genre. Writing an award application is very different to academic writing. You need to give the judging panel a sense of who you are as a person and an educator. They need to understand your passion for teaching and your teaching philosophy. Here are a few style tips that might help. First, write in the first person and have an active voice. Rather than statements that indicate past tense, like I did this, ensure that your statements are active. I do this. Use plain language. Your application needs to be understood by anyone from any discipline. When you're drafting your application, make sure you seek feedback from people outside your own discipline. The next tip sounds really obvious, but you would be surprised how some applicants get tempted to write about research. This is a teaching award, so make sure the contribution you are claiming relates directly to teaching and the impact it's had on learning. Something you might consider is the use of metaphor to help your audience get a sense of your achievements. It's also critical that everything you write is honest. Be careful about how you represent data. I've seen some interesting tables on award applications that after close inspection tell a very different story to what's told in the narrative. When you write about your achievements, it's important to describe changes over time. For example, if you identified a specific problem prior to initiating a new innovation, include information about how things have evolved over time. And don't be afraid to use your voice. It's quite a challenge for many academics to write in this genre, and sometimes it's useful to record yourself talking about your achievements before you begin to write. Writing an award application is more than just listing achievements and evidence. It's about you, and the panel needs to hear your voice. If you're considering applying for a citation, you'll be asked to compose the actual citation using up to 25 words. It's important that this citation is written in the third person, avoids jargon and informs the broadest possible audience about your work. When you draft your citation, you need to ensure you have two elements, a substantive claim and an instrumental or result clause. I've included my citation here as an example. This has been a broad overview of how to compose a teaching award application. This link provides more information and resources. And for some final advice, if you're considering applying for an award, start preparing and gathering evidence early. Always consider impact and evidence and seek feedback on your application. Don't be afraid to fail. I didn't get the first external citation or teaching award I applied for. Writing an award application is a great way to reflect on your teaching practice and a good preparation for writing promotion applications. Good luck with your applications.